on YouTube before in the history of ever. In fact, I don't think it was even an option for us to go live prior till just now because we didn't have enough subscribers. So the first thing that we're going to do is I did find 2 whole gallon Ziploc bags full of frozen strawberries, and they are going to go into my big kettle, and then I'm going to point you down. This is my big kettle. Unfortunately, I'm not a superstar, so I don't have like 53 views that I can show you, but I can show you what's in my pan. And I gotta grab, well, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't really measure much, so I'm not even gonna pretend like I do. But for your sakes, if you want me to, I will go ahead and do the measuring. Let's see. See if it lets me see. Okay. So it's going to let me see some live chat too. All right. Sugar's Christian name around here is Dixie Crystal Sugar. It's the only kind of sugar that my mama or my granny or my mom or my mother-in-law or any of our family will use. Use whatever you have. But just know that this one is really the best. And it's not available everywhere. Okay. So, let's see. If I point you down into my pot, what you can see. There we go. So my strawberries are in here, and I'm going to grab a measuring cup so that we can kind of know what I'm putting in. And we're going to taste as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat on. My berries. This is 1 cup. I'm going to start with 1 cup. That feels about right to me. Okay. And now I'm going to go get a little bit of water. And I usually use a mason jar, and this is 2 cups. Just into the bottom of it. Next, I'm going to grab a mix and chop. This is a Pampered Chef mix and chop. I live and die by these things. My cousin sells Pampered Chef. I get one of these every time she takes up an order. Okay, so these are still frozen pretty hard. I'm going to turn you back up to talk to me while we bring those to a simmer. And I think it'll let me see if you have got it. You know, pin messages, welcome to live chat. It doesn't let me see things. This is my first time live on the YouTubes. Okay, so while this comes to a simmer, I am going to just chop, use this and just, you can see my mess on my countertops. I don't have probably could have turned my light on for you. But the truth is I rarely use overhead lights. Binky. Mama needs a bowl. I gotta grab the self-rising flour, whose Christian's name is White Lily. Here, just rinse this. I gotta grab the self-rising flour, and I'll be right back. Now, I gotta also grab my butter. Okay. So, will you reach me a pastry blender.
I couldn't hear you.
Pastry blender out of that drawer right there. Right there. You see it? No. Yep.
That's not what I call it.
What do you call it? A biscuit maker? A chopper. This is a pastry blender. My child calls it a chopper. This is a pastry blender. All right. So another true story. Will you reach me the buttermilk? Another true story is I don't ever get ready for anything, y'all. I just start cooking and then we go.
There's not a lot of buttermilk in there.
Don't have to be.
I mean, like half a cup.
Add a little bit of milk to it. Won't hurt it.
I was trying to do something.
What are you doing?
Put it on my thing.
Baby sissies.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to take.
You can make the amount you need.
Probably. This is 1 cup of self-rising flour. I feel like that. Maybe a 1/4 cup more. Again, I'm measuring for y'all's sake, not mine. I am not the best. So I'm going to crush these berries as they get soft enough to crush. Now, butter. Let me grab something to get some butter out there.
Use this to make the amount you need.
Okay. I'm just going to take 2 tablespoons and cut that butter in there. So a lot of times, and I don't know who's watching because it's not like Instagram, it doesn't tell me. People say, how do I learn to cook from scratch? And how do I learn to cook without measuring? And the answer to that question is, I don't know. I've always just cooked with my eyes. But I don't think it's impossible to learn. I think anybody can learn it. If it was hard to learn, I would never have learned how to do it. But you just start out with small amounts. And that way, you can always add more. But once you got it in there, you can't take it out. So I got a little bit of butter in my, this is about 1.25 cups of flour. And I'm just going to start cutting it until I get like a gravelly texture. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. You don't want it to be quite like making biscuits because you're making dumplings. But biscuits and dumplings is kind of the same thing. And you can also add a little more butter to this and a little less buttermilk and make strawberry shortcake. Now, the other thing we got to add to this, because we don't want our dumplings to just be biscuits, is we're going to add a little bit of sugar. I guess I better measure that. I normally put it in the hollow of my hand. But for y'all's sake, we're going to use a measuring tool. Assuming I can find one. I was going to get you your measuring things. My daughter's the only one in my house who uses measuring tools, and she only does because of making cakes and stuff. You know, that's a science kind of. So here's 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. We'll go with 2 tablespoons. 1.5 cups of flour, about 2 tablespoons of butter, about 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, the other thing you could use if you don't have butter, you know, if you're like cooking along with this and you're like, well, crap, my butter's too hard, you could add a spoonful of lard to this. Sometimes we'll make our biscuits with lard. Any kind of fat, just not oil. You don't want it to be liquid fat. You want it to be a solid fat. So, I don't like Crisco, but if that's what you got, make it with Crisco. Okay. So now we've got 2-gallon Ziploc bags full of strawberries in my kettle. And they're starting to come to a simmer. And I'm going to start chopping those up. And then I'm going to, once I really get going on this, I'm going to turn y'all down to where you can see the pot and not me, because you're not really interested in me. I normally wear my hair back when I cook because I shed like a daggone husky in the summertime.
And I want my hair on that too.
Thank you. You don't want hair in it?
No, I don't think it tastes too good.
She don't want no hair in her strawberry dumplings. Now, the other thing I did in this pot is I added a tablespoon of butter to the pot. That'll cut down on like the foaming, because a lot of times when you boil fruit with sugar, and if you've ever made jam, you know this, you get foam, you can add just a little bit of butter. Now, when you're making jam, you have to add a little bit less butter. When you're making this, you can add a tablespoon. It's fine. Okay, now, here is when you arrive at another choice. My mom says you have to do this. I say you don't. If you want to, and you're cooking along with us, you can right now add a teaspoon of vanilla into your stewing strawberries before they really get going hot. I prefer mine not with the vanilla, so I'm not going to. You do whatever sounds the best to you. She likes hers to taste more like, she says it makes it taste more strawberry-y, but I think it tastes more creamy if you add the vanilla. Okay. It's not really simmering yet. So let me show you the texture of what I have in here. I'm going to point you, well, I'll do it here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got some like little gravels of butter in it, but it's not as full of those little gravels as it would be if you were making biscuits. And I just got flour on my shirt. Okay. Okay, the time has come. I'm going to turn the camera and point it downward. Ooh, hot. Okay. So these are starting to do their thing. Now, remember, I've not added any buttermilk to my self-rising flour yet, because I don't want to get it going on the rising before I'm ready to start dropping dumplings. So I've cut my butter in, I've got my sugar in, it's ready to go when I am, but it's still sitting there waiting on the buttermilk. If you do not have buttermilk, you can make your own. Take your sweet milk, which is AKA full fat whole milk, and add you a little bit of lemon juice or a little bit of apple cider vinegar to it. And there's this supposed ratio, and the internet will tell you that it's like a tablespoon to a cup or something of that nature. But I personally just add it till I feel like it's right, which is a glug. And that comes back to that learning to cook without measuring. Trust yourself. You can use your taster, and I'm about to use mine. See, I'll grab me a spoon. My husband says when I cook, I use every spoon in the house, and he is not wrong. Oh yeah, that's gonna be good. Woo, doggy. I gotta grab a hot hand so I can scoop that pot over. So you see, I'm just chopping this up. And I feel like it needs a little more sugar. Again, I would normally just add to whatever I thought tasted good. But y'all probably need a little idea better than what I could give you that way. So I'm going to add another cup. And if y'all start fainting because I put 2 cups of Dixie Crystal sugar in something, I'm sorry. It's got to taste like Granny's or it ain't worth making. Now, sometimes if I don't have enough berries to make one flavor, I'll mix berry flavors. So you might do blueberry, blackberry, strawberry, blueberry. Raspberry strawberry is really good. The only one that I don't really mix is if I'm doing grape, and I have never found a berry that I like mixed with grape. But you can do this with any kind of like juicier berry. Takes more raspberries and blueberries than it does when you're using strawberries. Grab me another taster. Yes, that's right. So it's a cup of sugar per gallon Ziploc of strawberries. And when you make other kinds of berries, you'll have to adjust the sugar. Do it to taste, y'all. Everything in life is better if you do it to taste. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to leave these to cook a little bit. And you and I are going to move so that we can do our dumpling batter. Because it's almost time to start dumplings. Also, if you've never made chicken and dumplings, you don't add sugar to it. But you still do the butter and the flour and the buttermilk to make you dumpling batter. That's just how it works. Dumplings are dumplings. I just made these sweet. Alrighty. So I've got about 1.25 cups of flour. I'm going to turn it down while I'm shaking up my buttermilk right here. 1.25 cups of flour. Remember, this ain't an emergency. If you pour too much buttermilk in here, you can add more flour. It'll be all right. I'm going to start with 1/2 cup of buttermilk, and I know that ain't going to be enough. At least I don't think it's going to be enough. I think it'll take a little more than that. Then I'm going to grab me a fork. Start looking for my dumpling. So this right here is almost to what I would say biscuits. You need a little more buttermilk than this for biscuits. But for dumplings, you got to go further than you go for biscuits. So that was 1/2 cup. I'm going to add 1/2 of 1/2 cup, which is 1/4 cup. And that was a little butter that was still there. Now we're getting closer. Remember, you can always take it out. You can always add more. You can't take it out. All right. So I'm going to add another 1/2 of 1/2 cup. So that'll make us up to 1 whole cup of buttermilk to these dumplings. And that's going to be getting us close. Now, you see this right here? This right here is almost to cat head biscuits. I know y'all probably don't know what that is, but cat head biscuits is the kind of biscuits where you just take them like this right here and just down on the sheet, and it just bakes up looking real rough, but they're good. All right. I'm going to add just a little more buttermilk. So we've got a total of 1.5 cups, 1.25 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and right now we're at 1 whole cup of buttermilk. And I'm thinking it's going to take about a quarter more cup to get us where we're going. And remember, this also will vary based on like the humidity in your house. It's just kind of like making any other bread. Now, you don't want a runny pancake batter. And if you end up at a runny pancake batter, this is it. This is dumplings. You see how it just falls off the end of my fork? This is dumplings. That's dumplings. And you're never going to get it to be perfectly smooth because you got little lumps of butter in there. So don't worry about it. It's all right. All right. I'm ready to move you back over here. All righty. Now you see this foam? That's what I was talking about when I was telling you to add you a little butter. So I'm going to add a little more butter. That'll help cut that foam. But it's also okay. It don't taste bad. It ain't nasty. It's all right. We'll just add this another little bit of butter. I also turned it down a little bit in case you couldn't tell that by looking at it. All right. Now again, if you want it, add your teaspoon of vanilla right here. I don't want it. Now, to make dumplings, and again, this process is the same. Whether you are making, chicken dumplings or strawberry dumplings or some other kind of fruit, you're going to bring it back to the bowl. Then you're going to get your spoon. I use 2 spoons. I know I've dirtied up like 63 spoons, but that's okay. If your kitchen don't get dirty when you're cooking, it won't taste good. All right, so I'm back at the bowl. I've set my gas at a 3, in case you're wondering that kind of stuff. Now, see, I'm going to bring my dumplings in, and I'm going to drop. And this is how I drop chicken dumplings or, any kind of dumpling. We also, I ain't never showed y'all this. We make cornbread dumplings sometimes. In chili, I'll have to, and it's kind of the same process. So you want to keep them separated out a little bit. And I usually drop like 3 or 4 at a time. I'm going to do another over here. You want to keep them separated so they make dumplings and not a big thing to float at the top of your pan here. These dumplings will thicken your soup too, just so you know. All right. Leave them go. I'm going to turn the heat down just a little bit. I've set it down to 1 now. And then what you do is you let them go and cook. And they'll start to float. And you can tell this one looks like it ain't cooking up just quite as good as this one right here. Hold on, let me scoot this up here where you can see it. See, this one's a little more cooked than that one right there is. Okay, this one right here is a little more cooked than the other ones. I'm just going to take and try to flip it over a little bit. Normally, I don't do this. I normally would let it cook, but y'all need to get on with your life and not be watching YouTube all day. And you got to keep it at that bowl. And try not to break your dumplings up. And once you put dumplings in, you just want to let them cook. And then you'll scoot them over out of the way to make your other ones. You can see they're starting to make better. Then you just scooch them. I'm going to try to get this show over. Y'all don't do this part at home, okay? At home, let them cook like they're supposed to. I'm going to turn them so we can move on with life and I can drop the rest of these dumplings in. Now, strawberry dumplings is one of my favorite things. My next favorite thing is grape dumplings, and if you wonder what these taste like and you're not making them and you're like, "I don't know," they taste like a biscuit and strawberry jam. Is exactly what they taste like. And like I said, y'all don't do this because I'm breaking my dumplings up, and I normally won't do this. Okay. Push these over. Now, other people, and I've seen this done, and I don't do this either, will take and just dump the whole batter down in there, and then they, crap, hold on, let me scrape this off. Then they just stir and they break the dumplings up that way. I'm gonna go the fast route. This is the other. This is also known as the shortcut. Is to just dump them off the end of your bowl. They're not pretty. Dumplings are never pretty. If somebody makes dumplings and they're beautiful, they probably use frozen biscuits. That's my experience. I've never made beautiful dumplings. I make good ones. And see, I'm just like creating an empty space there to put more dumplings in. And you just add dumplings to your little delight. And let them cook. See, these are done now. I'm just going to keep scooting them over out the way. This is what they're supposed to look like when you don't stir them. See that? They'll be like a good size. Some people make them big as your daggone fist. I don't like them like that. I like them little bitty, about, you know, bigger than a grape. Not quite as big as a golf ball. Or anything like that. And see, these I put too close together and they're going to stick a little bit, but that's okay because I'll break them apart. And for the sake of time, I'm going to flip them. And if you're in a hurry at home and don't care what they look like or how big they are, you can flip them too. But I typically don't because I want them to cook up and be the size that I make them. I'm going to make me a hole over here. And you can see where I've added the dumplings. This is turned, it's no longer that clear looking. It's because the flour thickens it. There we go. And you can sink them a little bit too. It'll help get them done faster. Let's see, this one needs turned over to get life going faster. So cooking ain't rocket surgery, y'all. You're perfectly capable of doing this to your own satisfaction. If you like little dumplings, honey, pour it all in there and stir them. Now, how do you serve these? With ice cream. I'm telling you, if you like cobbler, you gonna love fruit dumplings. And I am talking love. And you just keep right on going. I'll turn these because everything's taking its sweet time, and we're on YouTube time, so we don't want to run y'all out of your lunch break or whatever you might happen to be doing in order to get to watch this. But you keep going doing this until you run out of dumplings, okay? And you can make thicker dumplings if that's what you like. I prefer mine to be just like you see me dropping. Yum, yum. You see, that one's not quite getting done the way it should. That's okay. Life happens. Dumplings break up. Another way you can serve this right here is to add just some butter to it. It'll be just as good. Be like a cobbler with butter on it. The other thing that my husband loves for me to do is to not make dumplings, but instead to do a small kettle. I use my smallest kettle that's like probably 2 or 3 cups, and I put berries in it, a little bit of water, butter, and then I add sugar, and I cook it till it's bubbling, and then I add cornstarch and make what we call stovetop jam. I don't know what the real word for it is. But again, I'm just trying to speed things up. I normally would have dumplings that look all like these right here and not these little tiny ones. But every time you make dumplings, you get something different. So it's all right. Don't panic. Now, I'm going to grab a little bowl and I'm going to dish some of these up and show you what they look like. See, it looks just like chicken and dumplings, but except it's strawberry dumplings. And I'll show you. When you cut them, let me cut a thicker one. See if I can show you the inside of it. It's like a biscuit on the inside. See that? Now, I'm going to turn these ones because I'm tired of waiting. And when you make your dumplings thicker, sometimes they'll sink for you and go faster. I like mine to be that easier to drop texture. All right. Now, bring it back to me. Or not. Bring it back to me. Mine, what do you call this thing? Don't like me at all. Not even kind of. Let me get it. Turn back around here. I hate these things. Okay. Now, I'm cutting my range off because I'm out of dumpling batter. And this is what they look like. And they taste like a biscuit and strawberry jam. And I'm going to try one more time to show you the inside of, well, I dropped it. One. So you can kind of get an idea. And this could be one of those texture things that you don't like. But see that? It looks like a biscuit. Tastes like a biscuit. And I use my granny's 3-ingredient biscuit recipe to make my dumplings. All right. My dessert's made for tonight for supper. I'll just set these back until they cool, and then I'll put them in my fridge till my husband gets home in about 2 hours. And then tonight we'll have vanilla ice cream and strawberry dumplings to go with soup beans, mixed pickles, and cornbread. If you're not familiar with what soup beans are, let me show you. And also, you probably don't know what mixed pickles are. We can our pinto beans. These are soup beans in Appalachia. Well, they're most people's. I know one person who calls, I call it navy beans. I think they're Great Northerns. They're white beans. They call those soup beans. I don't call those soup beans. I call these soup beans. All I do is I open my jar, dump it in my kettle, I add a tablespoon of butter to it, a little pinch of salt, a little pinch of garlic, heat them up because I've already canned them. They're already done. I could open the jar and eat them cold if I needed to. Mixed pickles, though. I've taught this. They're fermented. They're not a dill pickle. I don't actually have a jar of mixed pickles to go with dinner today. So I'm having to make mixed pickles from separate fermentations. And what I do is, let me grab it. So this is really gonna shock y'all. This kraut, I know it doesn't look like kraut. This kraut is probably 2 years old. It's been sitting on my shelf. I promise it's safe. It's safe. We do this all the time. This is kraut. Y'all need to quit freaking out about fermentation. Um, I'll mix my kraut. I'll drain it. Put it in a little bowl. Then I'll add my fermented beans from 2020. They're safe too. Y'all need to really relax on freaking out about fermentation. It's not hard. Pickled corn, which I will cut off the cob and just have the loose kernels, fermented in 2020. And fermented peppers from, this doesn't have a date. Okay. If you're not a rebel like me, put your crap in the refrigerator and eat it in 2 weeks and you'll be fine. But if you are ready to trust somebody who's been doing it for 40 years and has 10 generations behind them of experience, I'm telling you, this is perfectly safe. And we do it all the time. So that's what's for supper at my house tonight. And I'll make cornbread, which I have made a reel about before, which is like, I don't really measure it, but it's equal parts self-rising flour and cornmeal. And then I add buttermilk to it. And then I get my cast iron skillet, blistering hot, on the stove top. And I have lard in it to about a depth of like this right here. So quarter to a half inch. And then I pour my cornbread batter into that blistering hot skillet and it goes shh. And then I stick it straight in my 400 degrees oven and I let it bake till it's done. And it usually takes, I don't know how many minutes, but you'll know when it's done. This is why I can't be a cooking show host, y'all. And then I serve the soup, beans, and cornbreads and mixed pickles. And then for dinner, for dessert, we'll have the strawberry dumplings. All right. If y'all have questions, I don't know if you can send messages on here, but you can for sure send us an email at homesteadinginappalachia@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram at the Appalachian Homestead, or you can, if you're in the community, if you're in our membership community, you can go into our community chat, tag me, send a message in there, and it'll make sure that I see it because I don't always see every single message. Okay, that's it for today. And I'm going to save this even though I dropped the phone. That's life. It ain't perfect here. But we will catch y'all later. And next time, I'm going to make Mark do the cooking.